So this evening, I'm going to be showing you a few ways to create holly, and there's a bit of ivy and a bit of mistletoe in there as well. It is cold, isn't it? Yes, very November-y. In fact, it's December tomorrow, isn't it? That's why. From central Scotland. Oh my word, I bet it's even colder up there because I'm down in the south on the Sunshine Coast near Eastbourne. So usually we have fairly mild weather, actually. I'm just a big wuss and I'm a bit chilly today. So I'm making a big fuss. But anyway, there we are. So this evening, I am going to be making some holly, some ivy and some mistletoe and showing you a few things about creating sugar flowers and making sugar flowers and a few hints and tips that I wish I'd known when I'd started because it would have saved me an awful lot of time. And effort and tears and all that kind of stuff. So let me take a sip of my tea. I'll come back to you later. Oh, I just love a cup of tea. So what we are making this evening, the holly here and the berries. That's the main thing for this evening. The Christmas rose, the hellebore, is actually available as a sugar bloom box. Some of you I know actually subscribe to it. I did have a subscription box for sugar flowers and I brought out a standalone one for December, which is the materials and the training to make these things. I'll tell you more about that later, actually. I'll do a bit more plugging about that later. But this evening we're going to concentrate on the holly. There we go. And the mistletoe, some mistletoe. I love this, actually. I might make this even bigger, make a big bunch of it. And there's a little bit of ivy there as well. So I'll show you a few basics and a few how to put them together, because you'll be surprised how easy actually some of this is to do. A lot of it is, imagine my glasses. A lot of it is achievable with just a little bit of practice, a little bit of know-how. And I was surprised when I first learned how to do sugar flowers, how quickly I picked things up and I could do things. So anyway, let's put this to one side. I don't want to break any of that. And let's put those to one side as well. There you go. So, a couple of basics that you need to know are the sugar paste that you use. Now, some of you might have heard this before, bear with me if you have, but there are basically 3 types of sugar paste that you can use. The main type that most people know about and buy is the stuff that you actually cover cakes with, that you eat. You cover it, you slice a cake and you eat cake. And there are many different types and brands of those. Now, the sugar flowers that I make and that lots of people make, you can't really use that covering sugar paste because it's too floppy. It doesn't dry hard. It's just no good. So you need something called florist paste, which dries brittle. So, when you have your leaves, it dries hard fairly quickly. So you can get on to, create your flowers. So you've got cake covering sugar paste one end, you've got florist paste that goes hard and brittle the other end, and then in the middle you've got modelling paste, which is a sort of a cross between the two. So modelling paste is what you make models out of, funnily enough. Funny that. But all those cake toppers and things that you see are generally made out of modelling because it's pliable, it doesn't dry really quickly, and actually if you really want to, you can eat it. Florist paste, once it's made up, although it's sugar and it's all edible, you can't really eat it. It wouldn't really taste very nice and it might knock a tooth out. So that's the difference. So when you're creating most of what I'm doing tonight, you will need the florist paste, and I use Squire's, that one, and I get it in these big packets. This big packet, it does last for ages. And it's about £15, something like that. But you're best off getting the smaller sized. I've got a smaller size. Yeah, the smaller size are about that big. That's a brown one, but that's about the smaller size, and that's about £4 or £5, something like that. But that does go a long way as well. There are lots of different brands of florist paste. Smart Flex do one. There's the flower paste. Renshaw's do one. I'm not so keen on Renshaw's. Generally, Renshaw's aren't considered the better one. But I always use Squires because when I was first taught how to make sugar flowers, that's what was used, and I've used it ever since, and I love it. So I'm going to be making some holly. Now, I've already coloured up some paste. And the thing you need to know about colouring paste, it's all gone a little bit hard. The thing you need to know about colouring paste, if you want a dark colour, so if you want to make flowers with dark red, dark or black, then it's best to buy sugar paste that is already that colour, because putting lots of colour into white florist paste just makes it unusable eventually. So if you want a really dark colour, and then what you would do on top of that is you would dust. I'll show you dusting at the end. I'll have a bit of time to show you that. So this stuff here, once you get it out the packet, it clumps. You can sort of break it off, but you have to knead it. You have to warm it up. Similar to, I'm sure more of you are more familiar with the cake covering sugar paste. You have to warm that up as well. You can't just get that out of the packet and roll it straight away with the rolling pin. If you do that, try kneading it first and you'll see how much easier it is. That's another lesson that I learned when I first started doing all this. So your florist paste, you knead it until it becomes nice and stretchy. You want it nice and stretchy, because then it'll cut well, it'll shape well. You'll be able to use the roller ball on it and veiners on it and that kind of thing, and make it look like what you want it to look like. I'll keep that in my hand for a minute, keep it warm, because I just want to talk to you about wires. We're going to make some wired leaves, which you then tape together. And the quick lesson about wires is that wires come in different thicknesses, and you need the thickness according to what it is you're actually making. So can you see that? These are different thicknesses. That one I think is a 20, if I remember rightly. That one I think is a 24. That one is a 26. I do have somewhere some 30s, which are really, really thin. So your 20s are for sort of holding things up together. That's quite a sturdy one, the 20. And the 26 and the 24 are more for your your leaves, because you're going to insert them into the sugar paste. Okay. So when you're buying your wires, look for the number. Oh, it's at the top of the packet, usually at the back, and it'll tell you 24 gauge, 26 gauge, 30 gauge. Okay, if you're buying online, it'll ask you which gauge you want, so it's easier. But if you're buying from a shop, just check that, because you don't want, for these ones, for example, you wouldn't want 20 gauge wire, it'd be far too thick. Okay. Right. So let's just cut out a few. Let's talk about cutters. If you're talking holly, for all shapes, there are all sorts of options you can go with. You can get PME ones, which are like this, which are plungers. Okay, and they have the veining on. You can see that? They have the veining on. So when you plunge it down, it makes an impression on the top of the leaf. I've got two of those. I'm sure I had another one somewhere, but I've probably lost it. So there's a little one and a slightly bigger one. The alternative is to actually just use a cutter. Now, I love these. These are the Valley Cutter Company. I'm sure it's Cake Stuff. The website Cake Stuff stock the Valley Cutter Company. These three are actually, you buy them separately. So you buy a little one, a middle one, and a big one. I've just put them in the same envelope because I kept getting disorganized. But these are really, really good cutters. They're really sharp, and that is exactly what you want with a cutter. If you buy cheaper cutters, fine, but you're going to get a less sharp edge. You're going to get fluffy edges and it'll involve more work. Okay, so the more you pay for cutters generally, the better they are. And then the other thing that you want to do is you want to, so for example, this one, you see it's sort of, I don't know if you can see it. It's sort of textured a little bit. It's got a bit of shape to it. And for that, we use these things called veiners, and you press the sugar paste into those. Now, this one is actually an ivy one, but I'm using it for the holly as well because it works just as well for the holly. The thing with sugar flowers is you don't always have to buy exactly the named cutter for what you want to use. Sometimes you can use the same cutter for lots of things. For example, my rose cutters I might use for poppies, I might use for lisianthus, and there's another couple of things that I use them for. So you can, peonies sometimes. So you can chop and change what you use. It's just a question really of looking at what you're making, looking hopefully at a real one close up, if not photos, and really getting to know the shape of it, how it forms, how it all sits together, that kind of thing. Anyway, I'm waffling now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull this down so that you can see. Okay. I do have an overhead camera, but it's a bit faffy to use with this into the Facebook group. So I just do this, which works quite well. Now, the thing is with florist paste, once it's warm, you don't want to leave it out because that would very soon go rock hard and you wouldn't be able to use it. So I put mine in little pots. You can put them in bags. As long as the air doesn't get to them, you're fine. So what I'm going to do, I'll just roll it a little bit more so that there's no, there we go. Oops. So roll it out. If it does stick, then corn flour is best for this. Just a really light coating. Don't go too mad with it, otherwise it will dry the paste up and it will crack. Okay, now with holly, we don't want it too thin because we want to be able to get the wire in, and holly isn't very thin usually anyway. So let's leave it there. So, well, I'm going to do the big one, mainly so that you can see it better. But obviously the process is the same for whichever size you choose. So make sure the paste can move around before you put the cutter on it, because if it's stuck to the board and you put the cutter on it, you're just going to have to pick it off. So, oh no, I do have as well, I have this little thing that I bought at Cake International, which is a presser downer, and it saves your fingers, which is quite good. So what we do then, once you've cut it, run your finger around the edge. These really are quite sharp, so you would have to be careful. Don't let your children play with these because they might hurt themselves. There we go. And anything that off cuts, you want to keep. So I just sort of shove it in the palm of my hand to keep it warm, then it doesn't go hard. In fact, I'm just going to, let's just do 3, shall we? Let's just do 3. So then let's use this again. If I'm doing lots and lots of flowers, I use this all the time. Otherwise, my fingers do go a bit red raw. So there's our 3 leaves. Now, if you are doing a lot, don't just leave them out because they will dry up. Get a plastic bag. I have somewhere in there, I have a Tesco bag that I've cut down the side, and I just slip them in, and it just stops them drying out. It makes them last a little bit longer. Now, the wires that you have, oh, hang on, put the light gauge here, but they're this long. Can you see? I think it's 30 centimetres. I'll say somewhere how long it is. 36 centimetres. There we go. And what I do is I cut it into quarters, okay? Because I find that quarters is about the right size for then putting them together. So you've got your wire. Now you want a little bit of glue, edible glue. I make my own glue using this stuff, CMC Tylo. In a pot this size, you need about half a teaspoon of this. Fill it up with water, give it a shake, leave it overnight, and you've got lovely glue. Much more cost effective than buying edible glue all the time. Okay. So now for this, you've got to make sure, and I use my cornflour puff like this, you see, that you've got to make sure your fingers are nice and dry, because if they're slightly tacky or slightly wet, your leaves are just going to stick to them and you're going to get into a mess. Okay, let's move that out of the way. So, a bit of glue on there. Less is more. Don't drown it in glue. Now you're going to hold the leaf between your thumb and your middle finger. At least that's what I do it. You might find a more comfortable way of doing it, but this is how I do it. So between your thumb and your middle finger, put the wire into the end and just push. Okay, this is the bit, this is the trickiest bit. This is the bit that you need practice in. And what you should do, you should be able to feel the wire in the paste between your fingers, and you can feel it moving in to the leaf. You see? And that is now pushed in. Yeah. So persevere with that, because it took me a few goes to get that right, and getting the thickness of the sugar paste right. A few variables that you need to just bear with until you get it right. But once you've got it right and you know what you're doing, easy. And then with the veiner, I'll show you a way without a veiner in a minute, but this is the veiner. So all we do with that is we just very gently, don't go too mad. You don't want it sort of completely sticking. You should be able to just lift it off. There we are. So can you see that on there? I'm going to show you a different way in a minute as well. So if you haven't got veiners, and these are fairly costly because they're quite good quality and they do last forever. These, £8 or so, £9 possibly, depending on the size of them, what you get. But it is possible, if I can find where I've put mine, to use a cocktail stick. To get another one to shape your leaf. So if you are a complete beginner and have no equipment whatsoever, this is the way you're going to want to do it to start with. Bit of glue again. Push it through. There we go. I can feel it in my fingers. You can see why you need your fingers to be completely dry and non-sticky. Otherwise, it just sticks and you get in a horrible mess. I've been in many sticky, horrible messes with sugar paste in my time. There we go. So what you do with your cocktail stick is you just roll along the end, along the edge. Ooh. And it will, you see how it's sort of bringing the edges up a little bit. So this isn't the best way of doing it, but it is one way if you haven't got any of the equipment. And I'll show you in a minute with a roller ball as well. Okay, oops. And then what you can do is very, very gently give it some lines. So not the most sort of professional, effective way, but it does the job. It does the job. So you've got your lines and you've got your shaping there. Okay. And then the third way I'm going to show you, again, bit of glue. Stick it in there. There we go. Involves a roller ball. Now most of the ones, lost them all now. Here we are. The ones that you get in the packets in Hobbycraft and online are these. The only trouble with these is that you have a bit of a seam on the ball. So I prefer metal ones. So I've got these. I think these were from Natalie Porter's collection. These are good ones, these ones. And you need a foam mat. These are a couple of quid. And then all you do is you just run your roller ball around and it will bring that leaf to life. Oh, not brilliantly actually. There we go. Give it a bit of shaping and a bit of life. And then you can also do the doodah ring with the cocktail stick as well. There we are. Okay. So that's how you make your leaves. And it's exactly the same with the ivy. So I've got ivy cutters, same wire, same glue, same way poking it in, either veiner or a bit of a cocktail stick. And these have been dusted, but that's what you get. So it's the same method. And in fact, it's the same with the mistletoe leaves as well. Just obviously just a different shape, she said, stating the obvious, but there we go. Okay. So that's how to make the leaves. Now, my actual leaves are this colour. Okay, they did start off this colour, but I've turned them this colour, the darker holly colour, by dusting them. What's the time? I've probably got time to dust some for you so you can see how I do that. Just put those back in there. So for dusting, clear the decks a little bit. Dusting is the sort of standard way that sugar flowers are coloured. You generally need a piece of need a piece of paper towel, and you need some dusts. Now the ones I usually use are the sugar flare ones. These are rainbow dust ones. These are quite nice as well. Fractal colours do a lovely range. If you want deep colours, the fractal ones are beautiful. But I use these ones, and these are fairly reasonably priced as well. You won't pay much for them. And I use brown with my leaves as well, just to give the edges. In fact, I'm going to use the forest green, just to give the edges a little bit of life. So the idea is that you just put a little bit of dust on your paper towel. I'm not going to do much because I'm only going to do one. A little bit of brown. Ooh. Now, it's best to wait till the leaves are dry. I did some earlier, so these are dry. Get the dust in your brush. Okay, don't just clump it straight on, because you'll find that the dust will clump. And if you put it on, once you put it on, you can't take it off. There's no backsies with dusting. You have to be quite gentle with it. Now, I'm going a little bit heavy-handed because I really want this a dark green. If I wanted it subtle, I'd use less, and I'd use it sparingly, and I'd build it up until I had what I wanted. But I think those ones I just showed you had a little bit of brown in the green as well, if I remember rightly. So you can mix them together. Ooh. I don't think this was the green I used, but never mind, you get the idea. So make sure you get the sort of sides of it. If you want to do the back, I don't generally do the back unless I know it's going to be seen. I just tidy it up a little bit. Okay. Then I'm just going to put a little bit of brown around the edges. There we go. So just almost as if you can't see it, with a lot of dusting, you end up with it as if you can't really see it. But without it, it would look really different, if that makes any sense at all. And then I do usually a fair bit at the base, because often it's at the base that they're a bit woody. And then I might just a little bit. Oh, I don't know, it's a bit too much, that. But if you've not dusted before, just have a go and practice, and you'll see how it works, and you'll get a feel for it. Oops. And you'll see, you know, how much you can put on and how much pressure to put on, all that kind of stuff. It's all in the practice. People often say to me, "Oh, Annie, you're talented," which is a nice thing for them to say, but actually it's not a talent. It's a skill that I've learnt, and I've persevered, and I've done things wrong, and I've done things right, and I've done things wrong again. And it's all built up with practice. So there we go. So that's how we dust. Okay. Now let's do a little bit of, no, let's do the berries, because the berries are the fun bit. Get rid of that. So our berries, for our mistletoe, obviously our berries are white. For our holly, they're red, of course, but they're both done in exactly the same way. And this is the fun bit. This is where I earn danger money doing this. You know, I'll put this up a little bit. Okay. So let's make some red berries. Where's my red? Here's the red. So red florist paste that's been held in its airtight container. But even then, can you see how dry that is? Yeah, you see it just pulls off in clumps. It needs warming. It needs encouragement. So for berries, for mistletoe and holly, they're about the same size, the berries. But obviously you can make them whatever size you like, really. That's the joy of this. You can adapt things to how you want them to be. If you want to make really big ones, make really big ones. If you want to make really small ones, make really small ones. Okay, so for the berries, we're not going to use glue for this. You're going to be stunned and amazed by this. Some of you are going to know what I'm going to about to do, but some of you won't. So we make our holly berries. Yes. So it's just like playing with plasticine when you were little. So tiny little balls like that. That might be a bit big for what I've got. Yeah, it's very big for what I've got. There we are. Got to get them the right size for the holly leaf, because the holly leaf that I'm going to put with them is that size. So yeah, a little bit smaller. Okay. So the idea of what I'm about to do is that we heat the wire, because if the wire then goes into the sugar paste hot, it melts the sugar and turns it into glue. Now, if you've ever done anything with sugar, you know, caramel, that kind of thing, you know that hot sugar is very, very sticky. So what I'm going to do, let me see this. Let's come here. I'm going to light this. Obviously, is it going to do it? Obviously, just be really careful if you've got children around, all that kind of stuff. I hate that if anyone got hurt doing this. So what we're going to do is actually we're just going to hold the end of the wire into the flame until it goes red. Don't worry that it sort of seems to burn down the wire. Don't worry about that. It shouldn't reach your fingers. I've never had my fingers burnt doing it this way before. Once it's really, really warm, let's bring it over here. So you can see it. Once it's really, really warm, have your in your fingers. And what you're going to do, hope you can see this, is you're going to, oh no, I didn't do it. Hang on, I'll do it again, because you should see a puff of smoke. And that puff of smoke means, let's try again. There we go. You see that? And that puff of smoke means that it's hot enough to have melted the sugar paste inside. And then that will act as glue. And that is very, very unlikely to fall off once it's dried now. Okay, and you do the same with the mistletoe. So a little ball of white paste. Heat up the wire. There you go, a little puff of smoke. These are good fun doing these. But I say, just be careful with your fingers because it does go very hot and will stay hot for a few seconds once it's in the paste as well. There we go. So there we go. And those will stick fast. Get rid of that. So I have now, usually I would let these dry. I wouldn't tape them up straight away, but I'm going to tape them up for you now. Now, florist tape, I want the green one for the holly, or do I? No, let's do the, you get different colours of tape. And this brown one is a very sort of greeny brown, and it's sold as twig. So this one is quite a good one for, you know, for your holly. But they do different shades. Now, the thing is with florist tape is to activate the glue, you've got to stretch it. Once you've stretched it, the glue is released. And then what you can do, twiddle it round. Ooh. Twiddle it round. Down the stem a little bit because you can push it up to meet the leaf. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the, oops, no, I'm going to do one at a time. I'm trying to save time, but I don't think that's going to work. So then we just wind round. Yeah. Wind round fairly tight. And once you've wound it, you can pull it down so that it's more snug in the tape. Another one in there. And then another leaf there. Like that, see? Which way did I wind it? Do you know, I wind it a different way each time I do it. Sometimes I do it clockwise, sometimes I do it anti-clockwise. So there we go. Can you see that? And then you wind the tape, whoops, down your wires. Pull it off the end. And then you've got your little twig of holly. So get the berries in. Obviously angle it. Just be careful with when you angle it when it's dry because it's brittle. But if you're careful, you should be all right. There we go. Now these ones I have also sprayed. There's a glaze spray which just gives a little bit of a sheen as well, because holly's got a little bit of a sheen. You can't really see it in the light here, but it has got a little bit of a sheen. Okay. So obviously what you do then is you do a few of these and then you can tape them together. You can, where's my rings? Get a ring. These ones I just bought off Amazon, and you can attach them to your ring and make a wreath. You can attach them to the top of your Christmas cake. Don't ever just stick these inside into the cake. You need either a straw or a posy pick. Posy picks are, I had some somewhere. I've lost them over there somewhere. Oh no, here they are. Look. Oops. Posy pick. You put that in the cake, and then you put your flour in there. So it might be that you want to cut it down. Bit of sugar paste to stop the thing from wobbling about. Once you're in there, put that in the cake, and there you are. Beautiful. I tend to use, if I'm doing a lot of flowers on a cake, I tend to use straws rather than picks, though, because it's sort of cheaper business from a business point of view. So there we go. So hopefully you can see how similar the method is for the mistletoe as well. So obviously you need a mistletoe shaped cutter. If you haven't got a cutter, you can, if you're careful, get a template and just cut round it. You might, my little wheelie thing. You can get little wheelie cutters, so you could cut round it if you can't get a mistletoe cutter. Cut out your mistletoe, insert the wires like I've just shown you, do the berries like I've just shown you, and then just tape them together. I use green to tape that one because that's mistletoe is a bit greener. There we go. So there's our holly and our ivy. Feel a song coming on, don't you? There we go. And then our ivy, again, much the same, obviously put together in a different way because ivy trails, doesn't it? But exactly the same. Cut, insert the wire, shape with the veiner, dust, and then tape together. So we've got our holly. I'm not very good at arranging. I'm not very practiced at arranging, but you can see what you can do with those, can't you? You can get the idea of that. So those are they. And then very, very quickly, because we have run out of time, it's 10 past already. These are very, very basic, and I didn't have any green sugar paste, but can you see sort of toppers, cupcake toppers? These ones I just did the cutter, the smaller one, but I just put the cutter and then painted into the shape with some little red sugar paste, little wreath there. That one there. And then this one. This one is a cutter that you can buy. Where is it? It's another PME one that does that. You get little ones of those as well, if you want to do little ones. So you can see there's sort of endless possibilities there. I mean, these were done very quickly. And those were painted, those were dusted, but you're best off getting some green sugar paste. Renshaw's do some lovely green sugar paste, which is brilliant for this, because obviously you don't want your toppers to be with florist paste because they would break a tooth eating them, and then they might sue you, which isn't what you want at all, is it? There we go. So there we are. It's been a bit of a whistle stop for sugar flowers, but I hope I've given you sort of enough basics to get going and to have a go. I started my sugar flower journey. Sound like X Factor, I don't know. Must have been about 10 years ago now, I think. And I was all over the place, didn't know what I was doing. And it wasn't until I sort of went and did some courses and started practicing that I really got to grips with it. So don't give up. If at first you think it's all going horribly, don't be one of those people that says, oh, I don't do fondant, because everyone can do fondant. It's just a question of sticking at it. So if you are interested in getting the training and the materials to make the Christmas rose, then look on my website, anniebennett.co.uk. Hang on, I've got it somewhere here. Go there, and on the top menu you'll see the sugar bloom box, and in there you will see the hellebore or Christmas rose box. I am sending those out. Well, I'm ordering those in the next couple of days, and sending those out next week. And the training will be on the 11th, live training, but you'll get the recording. So you'll have time to make them before Christmas. And I will teach you how to make those. So you get the box. The box comes to your door. And it's a nice little present to give yourself, or you can give it as a gift for someone else if you know there's someone else in your life that would love to, a doing gift. Sometimes those are nice, aren't they? Doing gifts. Anyway, it's all on there. It's all on my website, annybennett.co.uk. So there we go. Gone a little bit longer than planned, but never mind. I do love my sugar flowers. Oh, hang on. Let's get rid of that now. There we are. So lovely. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. If you do make some things, please put them in the group. I do love to see what people are making. Oh, you're welcome, Alex. You're welcome. I know you know how to make them anyways. But yes, it doesn't hurt to revisit these skills, does it? Yeah, do show me if you're making some things, because I do like to see them. I do like to see what other people are doing. And I learn off loads of people as well. So all's the good. So there we are. So I'm not sure when my next live in the home baking business community will be. I will do a few more in the Home Baking Professionals Society before Christmas. But other than that, I will see you very soon. I'll be in the group anyway, answering questions and all sorts of things. But I will hopefully next see you for a live in about a month's time. So there we go. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you soon. All right, bye.